Hi everyone. Let's take a look at the few Python interview questions with their answers. Let's get started. So the first question is, what is slicing in Python? So slicing is an operation in Python that can be applied to sequence derivatives like string, tuple, and list. So why we need slicing? So slicing, as a name suggests, we can slice the few part of the sequence. So how we slice? With the help of the index value, because in all these sequence data types, string, tuple, and slice, list, all the data are ordered and indexed. So we can access the elements with the help of the index data type. So for that, we need three parameters, that is start, stop, and step. So start is the start index where the slicing has to start, and stop is where it has to end. And if you want to go for jump operation, we can give the number of steps. So among these three, start and step are default, whereas stop is compulsory. So the default value for start is 0 and step is 1. So stop, we have to give the parameter compulsory. So it can be done on sequence data types like string, list, tuple, and array. Why? Because in all these sequence data types, the elements are ordered and indexed. So slicing can be only applied to the sequence which is ordered and indexed. Let's move on to the next question. It is possible to modify a string in Python, and how? So in Python, the data types can be divided into two types, mutable and immutable data type. That is, mutable means changeable, immutable means unchangeable. So strings are immutable data types, which means it is unchangeable. We cannot modify the string. So the answer is no, string cannot be modified in Python. But is there any possible ways to modify a string? Is there any other way? Yes. So how we can modify them? So one thing, we can go for constructing a new string by taking the various parts of the other string with the help of maybe operations like slicing, what we saw already in our previous question. Or we can convert the string to list, because list is a mutable data type, so that is changeable. So we can convert the string to list and do the changes, and again we can convert it into the string. So these are the two ways to modify a string. Other than that, we cannot modify as strings are immutable data types. The third question, what is lambda in Python? Lambda is an anonymous function. So this function helps us perform any expression that is given by the user. So for it accepts any number of arguments. So we can do any operation with the help of this lambda function. So we have to give the keyword lambda and the parameters, after that colon, and then we have to give our expression. So it will be stored in the identifier, and if we call the identifier with the actual parameters, the function will be performed. So that is the lambda. The fourth question, what is dynamically typed language? So normally typing refers to type checking. So in a programming language, so type checking can be done in two stages. That can be, we can say statically typed language and dynamically typed language. So statically typed language means the data types are checked before execution during the compile time. Whereas dynamically typed language, data types are checked during execution. So when we talk about Python, Python is a dynamically typed language. So checking is done during the execution. So there is no need for variable declaration. So we can introduce any variable in the beginning or at any part of the program without any declaration, because Python is a dynamically typed language. So it helps to reduce the number of code and code easy to learn. The first one is, what is the difference between list and a tuple? So list and tuple are the inbuilt sequence data types that help us to show collection of objects of different data types. So when we talk about list, in list we use square brackets, and we can, inside the square bracket, we can store the different elements of different data types, and it is separated by comma. So in tuple also is the same, but we use round brackets. So what is the difference? So the difference is list or mutable type, whereas tuple are immutable. So what is immutable? We already know. It is changeable. So we can add, delete, remove, or we can insert in the middle or in the end or in the beginning in the list. Whereas in tuple, we cannot do any operations because the elements inside the tuple are constants. So we cannot modify it. So, but how we can modify? If we want to do any modification, we have to convert the tuple to list and do a modification and again convert it into tuple. This is how we do it. So this is the difference between list and tuple. So list is the major difference is list is mutable and tuple is immutable. So what is the difference between .py and .pac file? So .py files are the Python source files. There is a Python programs what we write and we save it as .py files. So what is PYC means? PYC files contain the byte code of the Python. So when this py files are created by the user, these PYC files are created when the code is imported from some other sources. So the interpreter convert the .py file into .pyc. So now the next question, what is split and why it is used? So what is split used for? So split method is used to, it is one of the inbuilt methods, so it is used to separate the given string in Python. So we can split the string. So how it is splitted in the space. Wherever there is a space, it is splitted into a separate element and so the result will be a list. The split method separate the given string based upon the space and the result will be stored in a list. So how is memory managed in Python? So memory managed is effectively managed in Python. How? How means with the help of this Python private keep space, whereas we store all the Python objects and data structures. So who can access this? Only the Python interpreter take and also allocation. Allocation of this key space is done by the Python memory manager. And also in one of the important feature of Python is that it has the inbuilt garbage collector. So it recycles the unused memory and make us the available space. So it is so that the memory is managed in Python in an effective way. Next question, what is self in Python? So self is a variable in the init method. So where we use this? So we know Python in Python is the one object-oriented programming language, so we can write our own classes and objects. So if we want to write a program that create a class, so we need an init method. And so inside the class. So init method should have a self variable. So why is the self variable? So it refers to the newly created object. So self is a must in this init method when we create the classes. So what is the self? Self is the instance of the class. Instance of the class means object. Instance refers to object. It is the representation of the class. Okay, next question. Explain how to delete a file in Python. So if you want to delete a file permanently, we can use the remove function, which is present in the OS module. So we need to import the OS module, that is the package, and then we have to go for the use the remove method to remove the file. So next question. So how are arguments passed in Python? So we have pass by value and pass by reference. So pass by value, there is the actual, there is the copy of the actual object is passed. So whereas pass by reference is reference to the actual object is passed. So whereas in pass by value, changing will not change the, if you change the copy, it will not change the original object, whereas here it will change the original object. So there is a difference between pass by value and pass by reference when we use functions in Python. So what is init method? So we already saw in self. So we need to add this init method when we create a class. So init method works similar to that of a constructor in Python. So it is used to initiate, instantiate the object and the method. So it is used to initialize the attributes and the default behavior of the object. So it is must in Python when we create classes and objects. So what is the difference between remove function and del statement? So if we want to delete a particular element in the list, so we can go for remove function or del statement. So remove is a function, inbuilt function, whereas del is a statement. So when we use the remove, we see an example. We have a list one elements. So remove. So after removing, this is our result. So if you want to delete the object at a specific location, we can use this del statement or pop. To remove method, we have to apply the value of the element inside the remove, whereas in del and pop, we can apply the index value. The next question is, what are Python modules and names and commonly used built-in modules in Python? So as we have already said, the only important advantage of Python is it is easily learned and written because of many features like that. One of the features is dynamically typed programming language. So similar to that, another one important usage of Python and why it is used everywhere and is easy to learn because of its modules. So it has a large set of modules which make the program to program easily. So modules are the files containing the Python code which is written already. It contains functions, classes, or variables. So if you want to name some built-in modules like we have OS module, sys module, math module, random date time, and JSON. What are local variables and global variables in Python? So normally variables which are declared inside the function and used only inside the function and accessible only inside the function or known only inside the function are local variables. Whereas global variables are variables declared outside the function and it is accessible by any function present throughout the program. So it is accessible by all the part of the program. So that is called global variable. So it has to be declared before the function definition or we can use this global variable. So then also we have a module ORI. ORI means regular expression. So this helps us to do some more expressions, some more functions to the strings. So here we have split, sub, and sub. So split already we know. It helps us to convert the string to list using the space. So sub is all, it helps us to find the substring. From a string, we can create a substring with the help of this sub. And also subian, it is similar to that, but it returns a new string along with the number of replacement that we need to do. So these are few of the methods in the module, that is regular expression. They help us to modify the string. Differentiate between NumPy and Self. So these two are also the inbuilt modules. NumPy is for numerical Python, whereas SymPy stands for scientific Python. So these two have different operations, different built-in methods. So this NumPy, it helps us to do calculations like numerical computations like sorting, indexing, and also algebraic functions. Whereas the same scientific Python, the same Python helps us to do more scientific projects and more mathematical calculation, integration, differentiation, algebraic computations, or full-fledged algebraic computations help us to do with the help of SymPy. That's why Python is used in most of the projects using this if you want to do numerical calculations and scientific calculations. Explain the user with statement and its syntax. So this with statement helps us to open a file. So file management can also be done effectively in Python with the help of many statements and functions. So one of the statements with statement. So it helps us to open a file. with the corresponding mode. We can open a file and close it as soon as a block of code where with this use exists. So in this case, we can opt for we don't want to use this close. Uses a with open file name mode as file name. So these are a few basic Python interview questions. So if you want to learn Python effectively from the basic, and if you want to prepare yourselves for placements, so you can go for Python training in Chennai through a Career system, which is handled by efficient trainers with the help of placement team with effective HRs and also technical team to clear your doubts and help you in choosing the right course and go for career guidance. So please make use of this. And if you want to know more about the course or if you want to attend demo classes, feel free to access the website or the number and contact the technical team. Happy learning.